Welcome to Tuesday Talk. I'm Jessica Beecher with RE/MAX Select, and today we are going to be talking about whether or not you should attend inspections. So we've had a lot of misinformation and stuff going around the marketplace on Facebook. In office meetings, we've heard questions being asked. So I want to go over some of the things that I'm hearing about why you should not attend inspections and talk a little bit about that. So the main one that I've been hearing a lot is that there is some sort of lawsuit out there or multiple lawsuits out there against brokers because they attended an inspection. So I want to go over that real fast. I have talked to Ashley Strauss Martin, we've talked to GAR, we've talked to the commission, we've talked to Rice, our E&O insurance provider, and nobody can provide us information about a lawsuit that is happening because a broker attended an inspection. So we have heard about multiple lawsuits that have happened or stuff where a seller or a buyer will come back because a broker offered opinion at an inspection. So that's a little bit different. So what we do in our office, what we suggest is when you do attend an inspection, make sure that you're not posing yourself as an expert. That is where you are at risk of having some sort of liability, which is the next reason that we get the most often, which is that too much liability involved in inspections. I don't want to go. I don't want to put my neck out there. So once again, keep that in mind while you're there. Let the inspector do his job or her job. Let them walk around. Let them find what they can wrong with the house and be there. So if the buyer does have questions or concerns, you guys can talk to the inspector at the end and the buyer can address those concerns if the inspector didn't find something that is worrisome, a crack or something like that, that maybe they didn't find or they didn't think was significant. The buyer can talk about that. But be very careful about what you say. Some of the big cringe-worthy moments that we hear a lot is, oh, that's not a big deal, or don't worry about that, or that's not that expensive. Be very careful about the wording that you use. Make sure and remember that we're just there to advise people, to point them in the right direction. So if there is a concern to the buyer about something found in inspections, that's our job to then recommend some professionals, recommend 3 plumbers, recommend 3 electricians, 3 roofers, whatever the concern is, point them in the right direction. Our job is to be advisors and not to give opinion. So with all of that in mind, the last one that we hear is not enough time. That one is a hard one to swallow. If you don't have enough time to attend inspections, there's one of 2 reasons. One, you're either taking on too much work and we need to offer you some sort of assistance. Maybe you need transaction broker help, maybe you need marketing help, something like that. Or maybe you're not time blocking to allow yourself to have enough time to accomplish all those things. Remember, it's our job to be there with clients, to help them through the entire process, and inspections is a huge part of the process. So something we don't want to miss out on. So that's going to bring me into all the reasons that you should attend an inspection. Now, I'm going to give some rationale for both sides, being the listing broker and the buyer's broker. Of course, if you're the buyer's broker, it is very important that you attend. A lot of people I hear go and open the house and then just leave their client there and go do other errands or do whatever and come back. Be forewarned that that is a liability issue for you more than staying if you're just letting people into a house and leaving. If you're on the selling side, remember that there's nothing in our offers that stipulates that a buyer's broker has to stay during inspections. So if that is a concern to you or to your sellers, make sure that you write that in, that the buyer's broker has to be present during due diligence for that. So let's go over some of the things. First, to avoid misunderstandings or false issues that can come up. There's a lot of times as a listing broker, you know things about a house that the buyer's broker or the buyer is not going to know, and that the inspector doesn't know or doesn't necessarily want to take the time to find out. So some of these things, examples I can throw out there, remotes for, I don't know how many times, oh, the ceiling fan doesn't work because they can't find a remote. Also, some of the more modern HVAC systems all work on remotes. Hidden light switches or light switches that are on 3-way devices, so you have to turn a certain one on to have the other one on. All this little stuff that could be avoided and not put into a report and seem like an issue to a buyer if you're just there to explain these things and let them know all about that. So that comes to communication next. So communication is key, we know, through the entire process. But think about this. If you're a buyer's broker and your buyer goes to the inspection and you don't go, then you get an inspection report and all you're doing is reading this. Your buyer has now more information about the house than you do because you weren't at the inspection. The same goes if you're the listing broker. If the buyer and the buyer's broker are there and you're not in attendance, they now have more information. So when you guys are talking about things, it's going to be harder to communicate because you don't necessarily know what issues were found and if those issues are big or not. So make sure that you keep that open flow of communication. The second part is negotiation. If you, like I was just saying, if they were there and you weren't, you don't have the necessary tools to negotiate properly for your buyer or your seller. So remember that. So remember, the more information you have, the better you are at doing your job, which is to advise your buyer or seller and to help negotiate the terms of the ORW. If you are there and you can see what the buyer's concerns are, you can understand that their biggest issues were the water heater needs to be replaced or they're really concerned about the roof, these different things, you can help your seller and let them know that those things are gonna probably come up on the ORW. You can be proactive and you can start getting bids, you can start getting information together to help these two parties come to a win-win situation. Because in the end, that is our job, right? Okay, and then lastly is education. So I have a lot of brokers that ask, you know, how am I supposed to know about all these different neighborhoods and all these different things? How do I know that a house in this neighborhood probably has Orangeburg sewer line? How do I know a house up in this area probably has sonotube ductwork? All these things, they usually only come from experience. They usually only come from selling dozens and dozens and dozens of houses. You learn these things. So part of that is being at inspections, learning what's common in these houses, learning what's out there. That doesn't mean that you would give opinion on what to do on those things, but it does give you the ability to better inform your client, to let them know that a duct inspection is probably a really good thing to do on certain houses that have in-ground ducts. So go out there and learn something. Who would have thought that, right? So stay informed, make sure that you're communicating, better able to negotiate, and learn more information. So I hope this gives you a better idea of whether or not you should attend inspections. Our policy over here is that we say yes, go, be an advocate for your client, and we'll join you next time. Don't forget, work hard and be nice.